I'm 105 years old, and the only reason my heart is still beating today is because I finally learned how to stop living for the world and started living for the people who actually call my name. For most of my life, I was a giant of industry, a man who built a textile empire from nothing, fueled by a relentless ambition that I mistook for vitality. I thought I was invincible because my bank account was full, even as my spirit was starving. But in my mid-40s, I hit the bottom of a hole I didn't even know I'd been digging. A massive market shift and a series of arrogant bets cost me everything I had built over 20 years. I didn't just lose my money, I lost my identity. I went from being the man everyone looked up to a man sitting in a small rented room, watching the gray creep into his beard from a stress that no longer had a purpose. I thought my life was over at 45. I wasn't an old man by the calendar, but I felt like a 100-year-old ruin. My health was a wreck. My blood pressure was a ticking time bomb. My digestion was ruined, and I spent my days in that room, bitter and silent, feeling like the world had moved on without me. But then, my youngest daughter, who was only 8 at the time, came to me while I was sitting in the dark. I was buried in self-pity, my face in my hands, when she simply leaned against my knee, handed me a dandelion she'd found in a sidewalk crack, and asked, "Daddy, why are you so busy being sad that you forgot to breathe?" That simple childish clarity hit me harder than any financial loss ever could. I realized that if I kept going like this, I wouldn't live to see her grow up. My success had been a slow suicide, and my failure was actually a chance to start over. I decided right then that if I was going to have a second half of my life, I was going to actually be alive for it. The first fundamental change I made was stopping the glorification of the grind and prioritizing neurological recovery. When I was building my empire, I treated sleep like a weakness and stillness like a sin. I lived in a state of high-intensity fight or flight for decades. After my collapse, I made a vow. I would no longer allow the world's noise to dictate my body's peace. I began to follow the sun instead of the clock. I learned that longevity isn't about how much you do, but how well you recover from what you do. I prioritized deep restorative sleep and quiet mornings of nothing but breath. I realized that the heart lasts longer when it isn't constantly being whipped into a gallop by a mind full of worry. The second shift was moving from the fuel of convenience to the fuel of life. Back in my glory days, I ate expensive meals in dark restaurants, washed down with stress and fine wine. I was overfed but malnourished. After I lost it all, I started a small garden, just a few pots of herbs and vegetables on a windowsill. I began to eat things that still had the energy of the earth in them. I stopped eating to fill a void and started eating to nourish a temple. I found that my brain fog lifted and my chronic inflammation vanished, not because of a pill, but because I stopped poisoning myself with the processed debris of a hurried life. At 105, my digestion is stronger than it was at 40, because I finally respect the machine I'm driving. The third realization was the transition from vanity-driven exercise to soul-driven movement. In my youth, I went to the gym to look strong, but my body felt brittle and tight. After my awakening, I started moving for the joy of it. I walked with my children. I climbed small hills to see the sunset, and I spent hours just moving my limbs in the fresh air. I learned that the body is like a hinge. If you don't use it through its full range of motion every day, it will rust shut. I didn't stay mobile by lifting heavy weights. I stayed mobile by refusing to let my life become a series of chairs. I moved because the world was beautiful, not because I was afraid of getting old. The fourth mistake I escaped was the isolation of the self-made man. I used to think that being a leader meant being a rock, silent, stoic, and solitary. But that kind of strength is actually a brittleness that breaks under pressure. After I hit the bottom, I began to open up. I told my children I loved them. I told my neighbors my stories. I allowed myself to be vulnerable. Loneliness is a slow-acting toxin that thickens the blood and weakens the heart. I found that by building a web of connection, my own immune system seemed to strengthen. I stayed healthy because I was part of a living, breathing community. I gave my heart a reason to keep beating by filling it with the voices of people who cared if I woke up the next morning. The final and most profound change was letting go of the need to be right and embracing the need to be curious. Most people close their minds as they age, convinced they've seen it all. But the moment you stop learning, you start dying. I decided to be a student of the world again. I let the small things, the way the light hits the trees, the sound of a bird I've never heard, the new technology my great-grandchildren show me, fill me with wonder. This sense of awe releases a pharmacy of healing chemicals in the brain that no doctor can prescribe. I am 105 because I am still excited to see what tomorrow looks like. I'm sitting here now, and the dandelion my daughter gave me is long gone, but the life it sparked is still burning bright. I lost my empire, and in doing so, I found my life. I don't look back at my glory days with longing. I look at this moment with gratitude. If you are listening, don't wait to lose everything to realize that you already have everything you need to be well. Stop running, start breathing, and listen to the whispers of your own life before they turn into a roar. The air is getting cool now, and I can smell the rain coming. It's a beautiful sound. The world preparing to wash itself clean. I think I'll stay out here a little longer and just listen.